Carlo Gesualdo da Venosa, born between March 8th and March 30th, 1566, and passing away on September 8th, 1613, was a man of striking dualities. As the Prince of Venosa and Count of Conza, he lived a life steeped in nobility and privilege. Yet his legacy is far more complex and shadowed than titles alone can convey. Gesualdo is celebrated for his revolutionary compositions, notably his madrigals and sacred music, which employed a chromatic language unparalleled until the late 19th century. His genius in music was as profound as it was ahead of its time. However, Gesualdo's name is equally synonymous with one of history's most notorious crimes of passion. In a moment of unrestrained fury, he brutally murdered his first wife, Donna Maria d'Avalos, and her aristocratic lover upon discovering them in flagrante delicto. This act of violence entwined his musical brilliance with a dark, murderous infamy. In this exploration of Carlo Gesualdo, we will navigate the delicate balance between his extraordinary contributions to music and the chilling aspects of his personal life. Join us as we delve into the enigmatic existence of a man who was both a luminary and a shadow, a genius and a madman. To truly understand the enigma that is Carlo Gesualdo, we must step back in time and explore the formative years of his life. Born into nobility, Gesualdo's family had acquired the Principality of Venosa in southern Italy in 1560. He was likely born on March 30th, 1566, though some sources suggest March 8th. Despite earlier claims of a birth year around 1560 or 1561, recent evidence, including a letter from his mother, Geronima Borromeo, points to 1566 as the most accurate date. Carlo's uncle was none other than Carlo Borromeo, who would later be canonized as St. Charles Borromeo. His mother was the niece of Pope Pius IV. Carlo was probably born at Venosa, then part of the Kingdom of Naples, but much of his early life remains shrouded in mystery. His childhood took a tragic turn when his mother died when he was just 7 years old. At the request of his uncle Carlo Borromeo, Carlo was sent to Rome to be groomed for an ecclesiastical career. Under the protection of his other uncle, Alfonso, Dean of the College of Cardinals and later Archbishop of Naples, young Carlo's path seemed set. However, fate had other plans. When his older brother Luigi died unexpectedly in 1584, Carlo became the designated successor to the Principality of Venosa. Abandoning his ecclesiastical ambitions, Carlo married his first cousin, Donna Maria d'Avalos, in 1586. They had one child, a son named Don Emanuele. From an early age, Carlo showed a single-minded devotion to music, displaying little interest in anything else. He played the lute, harpsichord, and guitar, and had a musical relationship with Pomponio Nenna, though the nature of this relationship remains uncertain. His academia included notable composers such as Giovanni de Marche, Scipione Dentis, and Ascanio Maione. The seeds of both his genius and his darkness were sown early. As we peel back the layers of his life, we begin to see how the intricate tapestry of his experiences and relationships would shape the man who would become the Prince of Darkness and the Prince of Music. The origins of Carlo Gesualdo offer a glimpse into the complex interplay of nobility, tragedy, and an unwavering passion for music that defined his extraordinary yet tormented legacy. As the shadows of night fell on October 16, 1590, the Palazzo San Severo in Naples became the stage for an act that would forever stain the legacy of Carlo Gesualdo. Donna Maria d'Avalos, his wife, had begun a clandestine affair with Fabrizio Carafa, the 3rd Duke of Andria and 7th Count of Ruovo. Their forbidden love was a secret, but not one hidden well enough. On that fateful night, Gesualdo's suspicions were confirmed. In a violent rage, he burst into the room where the lovers lay entwined and killed them both on the spot. The gruesome scene was not yet complete. The day after the murders, a delegation of Neapolitan officials inspected the blood-soaked room and interrogated witnesses. Their report detailed the horrifying mutilation of the corpses, recounting how Gesualdo had returned to the bedroom a second time to ensure they were dead. Despite the brutality of the act, the Gran Corte della Vicaria found Gesualdo not guilty of any crime. It was a time when noble blood could wash away even the darkest of sins. About a year after this grim episode, fate dealt another blow. Gesualdo's father passed away, and he ascended as the 3rd Prince of Venosa and 8th Count of Conza. This night of bloodshed and betrayal would haunt Gesualdo for the rest of his days. The echoes of his violence reverberated through his music, a haunting testament to his tormented soul. And thus the tale of Carlo Gesualdo continued, marked indelibly by the crimson night that revealed the darkest depths of his being. By 1594, Gesualdo had arranged for another marriage, this time to Leonora d'Este, the niece of Duke Alfonso II. That year, Gesualdo ventured to Ferrara, the home of the d'Este court, and also one of the centers of progressive musical activity in Italy, especially the Madrigal. Gesualdo was especially interested in meeting Luzzasco Luzzaschi, one of the most forward-looking composers in the genre. Ferrara was a haven for musical innovation, a place where the boundaries of sound were continually pushed and redefined. Here, Gesualdo found a fertile ground for his creative endeavors. Leonora was married to Gesualdo and moved with him back to his estate in 1597. In the meantime, he engaged in more than 2 years of creative activity in the innovative environment of Ferrara, surrounded by some of the finest musicians in Italy. While in Ferrara, he published his first book of madrigals. He also worked with the Concerto del Don, the 3 virtuoso female singers who were among the most renowned performers in the country, and for whom many other composers wrote music. In a letter of June 25, 1594, Gesualdo indicated he was writing music for the 3 women in the Concerto delle Donne. However, it is probable that some of the music he wrote, for example, that in the newly developing monodic and/or concertato styles, has not survived. The period in Ferrara was one of profound artistic growth for Gesualdo. In the midst of the city's vibrant musical scene, he found a space to channel his inner turmoil into his compositions. The complex harmonies and emotional intensity of his madrigals reflected the duality of his existence, both a nobleman and a tormented soul. As he returned to his estate with Leonora, the influence of Ferrara's musical renaissance stayed with him. It marked a significant chapter in his life, one where the echoes of murder were momentarily overshadowed by the harmonies of his creations. Yet, even in his most beautiful compositions, the darkness of his past lingered, a haunting presence that could not be silenced. And thus, the tale of Carlo Gesualdo continued, a journey through a landscape of music and madness, where every note was a testament to his tortured genius. After returning to his castle at Gesualdo from Ferrara in 1595, Carlo Gesualdo attempted to recreate the vibrant musical environment he had experienced in Ferrara. He established a similar situation with a group of resident virtuoso musicians who would sing his compositions. However, this time the music making was for Gesualdo alone within the isolated walls of his estate. Using his considerable financial resources, Gesualdo hired singers and instrumentalists for his own pleasure. Rarely leaving his castle, he immersed himself in music, finding solace in the melodies and harmonies that resonated through his halls. His most well-known music was published in Naples in 1603 and again from his castle in 1611. The most notoriously chromatic and challenging portions of his work were composed during this period of self-imposed isolation. Despite his musical endeavors, Gesualdo's personal life remained tumultuous. His relationship with Leonora d'Este deteriorated, marred by accusations of abuse. The Este family even attempted to obtain a divorce. Leonora spent increasing amounts of time away from the estate, often staying with her brother in Modena. Gesualdo, in turn, wrote many angry letters to her during these absences. In 1600, tragedy struck as Gesualdo's son by his second marriage passed away. In his grief, he commissioned a large painting for the Church of the Capuchins at Gesualdo, depicting himself, his uncle Carlo Borromeo, Leonora, and his son, beneath angelic figures. Some sources, however, suggest the painting may have been commissioned earlier and the identity of the child remains unclear. As his life progressed, Gesualdo's mental health deteriorated. He suffered from severe depression and resorted to extreme measures in search of relief. According to contemporary accounts, he had himself beaten daily by his servants, hoping to atone for his past sins. He also engaged in relentless correspondence with Cardinal Federico Borromeo, seeking relics of his canonized uncle, Carlo Borromeo, in the hope of finding healing and absolution. Gesualdo's late works, such as his setting of Psalm 51, the Miserere, reflect his inner torment. The insistent and imploring musical repetitions, alternating lines of monophonic chant with chromatic polyphony, convey his desperate plea for forgiveness. Carlo Gesualdo died in isolation at his castle in Avellino, just 3 weeks after the death of his son Emanuele, his first son by his marriage to Maria. Some biographers have even raised the possibility that he was murdered by his wife. He was buried in the chapel of St. Ignatius in the church of the Gesù Nuovo in Naples. Though the sepulchre was destroyed in the earthquake of 1688, the burial plaque remains visible, a silent testament to the troubled life of this tortured musical genius. Thus ended the life of Carlo Gesualdo, a man whose music transcended the boundaries of his time, but whose soul remained forever haunted by the shadows of his past. The evidence that Gesualdo was tortured by guilt for the remainder of his life is considerable, and he may have given expression to it in his music. One of the most obvious characteristics of his music is the extravagant text setting of words representing extremes of emotion. Love, pain, death, ecstasy, agony, and other similar words occur frequently in his madrigal texts, most of which he probably wrote himself. While this type of word painting is common among madrigalists of the late 16th century, it reached an extreme development in Gesualdo's music. His music is among the most experimental and expressive of the Renaissance, and without question is the most wildly chromatic. Progressions such as those written by Gesualdo did not appear again in Western music until the 19th century, and then in a context of tonality. Gesualdo's published music falls into 3 categories: sacred vocal music, secular vocal music, and instrumental music. His most famous compositions are his 6 books of madrigals, published between 1594 and 1611, as well as his Tenebrae Responsoria, which are very much like madrigals, except that they use text from the Passion, a form, Tenebrae, used by many other composers. As in the later books of secular madrigals, he uses particularly sharp dissonance and shocking chromatic juxtapositions, especially in the parts highlighting text passages having to do with Christ's suffering or the guilt of St. Peter in having betrayed him. The first books of madrigals that Gesualdo published are close in style to the work of other contemporary madrigalists. Experiments with harmonic progression, cross-relation, and violent rhythmic contrast increase in the later books, with books 5 and 6 containing the most famous and extreme examples. For instance, the madrigals Moro, Lasso, Al mio duolo, and Belta, Poi che t'assenti, both of which are in Book 6, published in 1611. There is evidence that Gesualdo had these works in score form in order to better display his contrapuntal inventions to other musicians, and also that Gesualdo intended his works to be sung by equal voices, as opposed to the concerted madrigal style popular in the period, which involved doubling and replacing voices with instruments. In addition to the works which he published, he left a large quantity of music in manuscript. This contains some of his richest experiments in chromaticism, as well as compositions in such contemporary avant-garde forms as monody. Some of these were products of the years he spent in Ferrara, and some were specifically written for the virtuoso singers there, the 3 women of the Concerto di Donne. Characteristic of the Gesualdo style is a sectional format in which relatively slow-tempo passages of wild, occasionally shocking chromaticism alternate with quick-tempo diatonic passages. The text is closely wedded to the music, with individual words being given maximum attention. Some of the chromatic passages include all 12 notes of the chromatic scale within a single phrase, although scattered throughout different voices. Gesualdo was particularly fond of chromatic third relations, for instance, juxtaposing the chords of a major and F major, or even C sharp major and A minor, as he does at the beginning of Moro, Lasso, Al mio duolo. Carlo Gesualdo's legacy is one of profound emotional depth and innovative musical techniques. His works continue to fascinate and inspire musicians and listeners alike, serving as a testament to the complex interplay between genius and torment that defined his life. The fascination for Gesualdo's music has been fueled by the sensational aspects of his biography. In 2011, Alex Ross wrote in The New Yorker, "If Gesualdo had not committed such shocking acts, we might not pay such close attention to his music. But if he had not written such shocking music, we would not care so much about his deeds. Many bloodier crimes have been forgotten. It's the nexus of high art and foul play that catches our fancy." In his own lifetime, the salacious details of Gesualdo's killing of his first wife and her lover were widely publicized, including in verse by poets such as Tasso and an entire flock of Neapolitan poets eager to capitalize on the sensation. The accounts of his cruelty were expanded with apocryphal stories such as the alleged killing of an illegitimate child of Donna Maria and her lover, which, according to one variant of the made-up story, was suspended in a bassinet and swung to the point of death. Until the 1620s, his music was imitated by Neapolitan composers of polyphonic madrigals such as Antonio Cifra, Michelangelo Rossi, Giovanni de Macche, Scipione Dentis, Girolamo Frescobaldi, and Sigismondo de India. After the Renaissance, Gesualdo's life story and his music were largely forgotten until the 20th century. In 1926, Gray and Warlock published their book on Gesualdo. The life of Gesualdo has provided inspiration for numerous works of fiction and musical drama, including a novel by Anatole France and a short story by Julio Cortázar. Several composers responded to Gesualdo's music. In 1960, Igor Stravinsky wrote Monumentum pro Gesualdo, containing an arrangement of Gesualdo's madrigal belter, Poiceta Senti. In 1995, Alfred Schnittke wrote an opera based on Gesualdo's life. Another Gesualdo opera was written by Franz Hummel in 1996. Salvatore Schiarino arranged several of Gesualdo's madrigals for an instrumental ensemble. Gesualdo's legacy lives on not just through his music, but also through the stories and artistic works he continues to inspire. His life, a haunting blend of genius and madness, ensures that he remains a figure of enduring intrigue and fascination in both the musical and literary worlds. The Conservatorio di Musica Carlo Gesualdo da Venosa, located in Potenza, Basilicata, Italy, stands as a testament to Gesualdo's lasting impact. Founded in 1971, this conservatory honors the composer by nurturing new generations of musicians who study and perform his complex works. In the realm of theatre, David Pownall's 1976 play Music to Murder By juxtaposes the tumultuous life of Gesualdo with that of 20th century composer Peter Warlock, exploring the dark interplay between artistic genius and personal demons. Literature, too, has been inspired by Gesualdo's story. Michel Breitman's 1985 novel Le Témoin de Poussière delves into the latter part of Gesualdo's life, offering a fictionalized yet poignant portrayal of his tormented existence. Filmmaker Werner Herzog brought Gesualdo's story to the screen in his 1995 documentary Gesualdo, Death for Five Voices, a haunting exploration of the composer's life and the emotional depth of his music. Modern musicians continue to find inspiration in Gesualdo. In an interview with NME, musician Anna Calvi named him one of her ultimate cult heroes. She praised his progressive and extreme musical style, which remained unmatched until the 20th century. Calvi's admiration underscores how Gesualdo's influence transcends time, resonating with contemporary artists. The Gesualdo Six, a British vocal consort founded in 2014, carries on his legacy. Directed by Owain Park, the group performs a wide-ranging repertoire, from medieval music to modern compositions, often featuring Gesualdo's intricate works. Their foundation in Cambridge for a performance of the Tenebrae Responsories for Maundy Thursday highlights the enduring relevance of his music. Gesualdo's name and music continue to reverberate through history, inspiring artists across various disciplines. His legacy is not confined to the past. It lives on, evolving and influencing new generations, ensuring that the haunting genius of Carlo Gesualdo remains an indelible part of our cultural fabric.